My daughter stopped eating after my wife died. 6 months later, I discovered she'd been secretly feeding homeless people because mom would want someone to be happy. My daughter stopped eating after my wife died, saying food tastes like sadness. Doctors found nothing wrong. 6 months later, I discovered she'd been secretly feeding her meals to homeless people because mom would want someone to be happy. We've been volunteering together ever since. I never thought I'd be that parent, you know the type. The one sitting in a pediatrician's office at 9 in the morning, watching their child waste away, begging doctors for answers that don't exist. But there I was, 6 months after burying my wife, watching my 10-year-old daughter disappear right in front of me, and I had absolutely no idea why. Let me back up. I need to tell you about Sarah first, because none of this makes sense without understanding who she was. My wife, Sarah, wasn't just the love of my life. She was the kind of person who made the world tangibly better just by existing in it. We'd been married for 12 years, together for 14, and every single day with her felt like a gift I didn't deserve but was grateful to receive anyway. Sarah worked as a social worker, but that title doesn't really capture what she did. She didn't just help people navigate systems and fill out paperwork. She saw people, really saw them. The homeless man everyone else walked past on their way to Starbucks. Sarah knew his name was Robert, knew he'd been a teacher before his wife died and he lost everything, knew he took his coffee with 2 sugars and no cream. The elderly woman at the grocery store counting pennies at the register. Sarah would strike up a conversation, help her with her bags, sometimes slip a 20 into her purse when she wasn't looking. And the homeless shelter where she volunteered 3 times a week. That place was her second home. She'd bring Emma, our daughter, with her sometimes on weekends. They'd cook together in that industrial kitchen, making huge batches of chili or pasta, and Sarah would tell Emma stories about the people they were feeding. Real stories. Not the sanitized, sad versions you tell children to make them grateful for what they have, but actual human stories full of complexity and dignity. Emma adored her mother. God, they were so close. Emma had just turned 10 when it happened, and she was this bright, empathetic, curious kid who wanted to understand everything about the world. She'd ask a million questions about everything. Why do some people not have homes? What happened to them? How can we help? And Sarah would answer every single question with patience and honesty, never talking down to her, always treating her like her thoughts and feelings mattered. They'd cook together almost every night. It was their thing. I'd come home from work and find them in the kitchen, flour on their noses, laughing about something, and the house would smell like garlic and herbs and home. Emma learned to make Sarah's famous lasagna by the time she was 8. She could dice onions without crying by 9. She knew how to season a pot of soup by instinct, the way Sarah did, tasting and adjusting until it was perfect. And then in one moment on a Tuesday afternoon in March, all of that ended. A drunk driver ran a red light, simple as that. 3 words that changed everything. Sarah had picked Emma up from school, and they were driving home, probably talking about what to make for dinner or what homework Emma had. The other driver hit them on the passenger side where Sarah was sitting. She died instantly. That's what they told me at the hospital. She didn't suffer, as if that makes it better. As if knowing she didn't feel pain somehow lessens the fact that she's gone. Emma and I survived with minor injuries. A few stitches for me, a sprained wrist for Emma. Physically, we walked away almost unscathed. But standing in that hospital room, holding my daughter's hand while a doctor I'd never met before told us that my wife, Emma's mother, was gone. I felt something inside me break so completely that I knew it would never be whole again. The funeral was a blur. I remember hundreds of people showing up. Sarah had touched so many lives that the service had to be moved to a larger venue. People from the shelter came, people she'd helped over the years, colleagues, friends, family. They all told stories about Sarah's kindness, her warmth, her generosity. And through it all, Emma stood beside me holding my hand, not crying, not once. She was so stoic, so calm. People kept commenting on how well she was handling it, how strong she was. But I knew my daughter. I knew that stillness wasn't strength. It was shock. It was her 10-year-old brain trying to process something too big, too impossible, too permanent to understand. The first week after the funeral, our house filled with relatives trying to help. My parents came, Sarah's mom stayed with us. My sister took time off work to cook and clean and handle the endless logistics of death. Casseroles appeared in our fridge. Cards piled up on the dining room table. People kept saying they were sorry for our loss, as if Sarah was a misplaced set of keys we might eventually find again. And Emma. Emma went through the motions. She got up when told to get up. She got dressed. She went to school when we sent her back after a week. She did her homework. She answered questions with 1 or 2 words, but there was this hollowness to her, like someone had scooped out everything that made her Emma and left just the shell behind. I thought it was normal grief. I thought we were both in that numb phase where you're just surviving minute by minute, and eventually we'd start to feel things again. Eventually, we'd cry and scream and rage against the unfairness of it all, and then slowly we'd start to heal. That's what everyone kept telling me. Time heals all wounds. It gets easier. You'll learn to live with it. What they didn't tell me was that sometimes grief doesn't look like crying. Sometimes it looks like a 10-year-old girl pushing food around her plate and saying it tastes like sadness. It started about 2 weeks after the funeral. Our relatives had gone home, and it was just Emma and me trying to figure out how to be a family of 2 instead of 3. I made her favorite breakfast that morning, chocolate chip pancakes, the way Sarah used to make them with the chips forming a smiley face. Emma looked at the plate, picked up her fork, cut a small piece, put it in her mouth, and then just stopped. "What's wrong, sweetie?" I asked, watching her. "Is it not good?" She shook her head slowly. "It's fine, Dad, I'm just not very hungry. You need to eat something, Emma. You didn't have dinner last night either." "I'll eat at school," she promised, but something in her voice felt off. That became the pattern. Every meal, she'd take a bite or 2, push the rest around her plate, and claim she wasn't hungry. At first, I thought maybe she was just grieving that her appetite would come back. But days turned into weeks, and instead of improving, it got worse. She was barely eating anything. A few crackers here, half an apple there. I'd watch her at dinner, and she'd just stare at the food like it was something foreign and frightening. By the end of the first month, I noticed her clothes were getting looser. She'd lost weight, not a little bit. 8 pounds. For a 10-year-old who was already small for her age, 8 pounds was significant. Terrifying, actually. "Emma, honey, you have to eat," I'd say, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. "Your body needs food." And that's when she said it. The thing that would haunt me for months. She looked up at me with those big, sad eyes and said, "Food doesn't taste right anymore, Dad. It just tastes sad." I didn't know what to say to that. How do you argue with a statement like that? How do you tell a child that food doesn't have emotions? That taste is just chemical reactions on your tongue, when you yourself felt like the whole world had turned gray and flavorless since Sarah died. I took her to our pediatrician, Dr. Morrison, a kind woman who'd known Emma since she was born. She did a full examination, ran blood tests, checked for everything. Thyroid problems, vitamin deficiencies, digestive issues. Everything came back normal. Physically, Emma was fine. Well, except for the weight loss and the not eating part. "It's psychological," Dr. Morrison told me gently, in that way doctors have when they're about to tell you something you don't want to hear. "She's grieving, and sometimes grief manifests in unexpected ways. I'm going to refer you to a child therapist who specializes in trauma and loss." The therapist was a woman named Dr. Chen. Her office was filled with toys and art supplies designed to make kids feel comfortable. Emma went twice a week, and Dr. Chen assured me that Emma was processing her grief, that she was talking about her feelings, that she was making progress. But when I'd ask about the eating, Dr. Chen would get this careful look on her face. "Emma is experiencing complicated grief," she'd explain. "The eating issue is a symptom, but she won't discuss it directly. She says food tastes sad, and when I ask her to elaborate, she changes the subject. We're working on it, but these things take time." Time. Everyone kept talking about time like it was some magical cure. But time was passing, and my daughter was getting thinner and paler and more distant, and I felt completely helpless to stop it. I tried everything I could think of. I made her favorite foods. I took her to restaurants she used to love. I bought ice cream in every flavor. I learned to cook meals Sarah used to make, hoping the familiar tastes would bring her back somehow. Nothing worked. She'd take a bite to make me happy, chew it slowly, swallow with effort, and then just stop. "I'm sorry, Dad," she'd whisper. "I'm trying, I can't." The desperation I felt during those months is hard to describe. Have you ever watched someone you love suffer and been completely powerless to help them? It's a special kind of torture. I'd lie awake at night, listening to make sure Emma was still breathing, terrified that I was going to lose her too. That the drunk driver hadn't just taken my wife, He'd set in motion something that would take my daughter as well. By month 3, we were seeing specialists. A nutritionist tried to work with Emma on meal planning, but Emma would nod politely and agree to everything, then still not eat. A gastroenterologist did an endoscopy to make sure there wasn't something physically blocking her ability to eat. There wasn't. We even tried alternative medicine. Acupuncture, herbal supplements, meditation. I was grasping at straws, willing to try anything. The school started calling. Emma was falling asleep in class. She had no energy for recess. Her grades were slipping. The school nurse pulled me aside one day and said, very gently, that if Emma's weight dropped much more, they'd have to file a report with Child Protective Services. Not because I was doing anything wrong, she assured me, but because Emma was approaching dangerously underweight territory, and there were procedures that had to be followed. I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My beautiful, bright daughter was wasting away in front of me, and no one could tell me why or how to fix it. Dr. Morrison started talking about hospitalization, about feeding tubes, about intensive inpatient treatment. The words hit me like physical blows. This couldn't be happening. I'd already lost Sarah. I couldn't lose Emma too. Month 4, Emma had dropped to a weight that made my heart stop every time I saw her. Her cheekbones jutted out. Her collarbones were sharp edges under her skin. Her eyes looked too big for her face. She moved slowly, conserving energy she didn't have. And still, she insisted food just tasted sad. I started crying in the shower so Emma wouldn't see. I'd stand under the hot water and sob, wondering what I was doing wrong, what I wasn't seeing, how I could save my daughter when I couldn't even save myself. My own grief for Sarah felt like it was crushing me, and now this new grief, this anticipatory grief for Emma, was piling on top of it. My sister would call and ask how we were doing, and I'd lie and say we were managing. My parents wanted to come stay again, but I told them we were fine, we had it under control. I didn't want to admit that I was failing at the one job that mattered most, being Emma's father, keeping her safe, keeping her alive. Doctor. Chen suggested family therapy, so we started going together. Sitting in that office, trying to talk about our feelings while Emma remained politely engaged but emotionally distant, felt like another form of torture. The therapist would ask Emma what she was feeling, and Emma would give these careful, articulate answers about missing her mom and feeling sad and trying to be strong for me. But she never, ever talked about why she couldn't eat. One session, the therapist asked Emma directly, "What happens when you try to eat? Can you describe it for me?" Emma thought for a long moment, her small hands twisting in her lap. It's like the food knows Mom isn't here, like it's wrong for me to enjoy it when she can't. So it just tastes like absence, like the space where something should be but isn't. I had to leave the room. I stood in the hallway, my forehead pressed against the cool wall, trying not to break down completely. How was my 10-year-old daughter so articulate about grief? How was she feeling things so deeply that food itself had become an enemy? By month 5, hospitalization was no longer a possibility. It was becoming a necessity. Emma's weight had dropped to dangerous levels. Her hair was starting to fall out. She was cold all the time, her body trying to conserve every bit of energy. Dr. Morrison was running out of options, and I was running out of hope. And then one Tuesday afternoon in September, everything changed. Not because Emma suddenly started eating. Not because we found some miracle cure, but because I followed her. She told me she was staying after school for an art club. This had become her routine for the past few weeks. She'd stay until 4:30, then walk home, arriving around 5. I thought it was good for her to have something she enjoyed, even if she was barely eating. Dr. Chen had said that maintaining social connections was important. But that day, something felt off. Maybe it was Father's intuition. Maybe it was just that I'd reached such a level of desperation that I was willing to grasp at anything. But I decided to pick her up from this art club instead of letting her walk home. I got to the school at 4:15 and waited in the parking lot. Students streamed out, getting on buses, meeting parents, walking home. I watched for Emma, expecting to see her emerge from the art room with paint on her clothes or charcoal smudges on her hands. But when Emma came out of the building, she wasn't heading to the art room. She was walking away from the school entirely, her backpack on, moving with purpose toward downtown. There was no art club. She'd been lying to me. My heart started pounding. Where was she going? Was she meeting someone? Was something else going on that I didn't know about? I waited a moment, then followed her, keeping my distance, feeling like a detective tailing a suspect. This was my daughter. I shouldn't have to follow her. But nothing about the past 5 months had been what it should have been. Emma walked for about 15 minutes, cutting through neighborhoods I knew she knew from our walks with Sarah. She turned into Riverside Park, a place where Sarah used to take her to feed the ducks. And that's when I saw something that stopped me in my tracks. There was a homeless man sitting on a bench, his shopping cart beside him filled with his possessions. Emma walked right up to him like she knew him. She sat down next to him on the bench, opened her backpack, and pulled out a lunch box. Her lunch box. The one I'd packed for her that morning with a sandwich and apple crackers and cookies. And she gave it to him, all of it. I watched from behind a tree, my mind trying to process what I was seeing. The homeless man looked surprised but grateful. He opened the lunch box and they talked. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see Emma smiling, actually smiling. The first genuine smile I'd seen on her face in months. She stayed for about 20 minutes, just sitting with this man, talking, occasionally pointing at something in the park or laughing at something he said. And then she stood up, waved goodbye, and started walking home. I followed her at a distance, my thoughts racing. Was this a one-time thing? Was she being manipulated by this man? Was she in danger? But even as those parental fears bubbled up, another part of my brain was noting that Emma had looked happy, genuinely happy. For the first time since Sarah died, I got home before her, my mind churning. When she walked in at 5, like always, I was sitting at the kitchen table. "How was art club?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Good," she said, the lie smooth and practiced. "We're working on watercolors." My heart broke a little more. Not only was she not eating, she was lying to me about where she was going, but I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to understand what was happening first. The next day, I told my boss I needed to leave work early for a family emergency. It wasn't a lie. This was absolutely an emergency. I parked near the school again at 4 and waited. Sure enough, Emma came out, looked around to make sure no one was watching, and headed downtown again. This time, I followed more carefully, staying further back. She didn't go to the park. She went to the public library, and behind the library, in the small courtyard where people sometimes had lunch, there was a homeless woman with a grocery cart and a threadbare blanket. Emma approached her the same way she had the man the day before, like she knew her. Like this was routine. She pulled out her lunch box, and once again she gave the woman her entire lunch. They talked for a while, the woman showing Emma something in a book she had. Emma was animated, engaged, smiling. I felt like I was watching my daughter through a window into another world. A world where she was okay, where she could smile and laugh and be present. But it was a world I didn't understand. For the next week, I followed her every day. And every single day, she gave her lunch to a different homeless person. Sometimes in the park, sometimes behind the library, once at a bus stop downtown. She knew these people by name. They knew her. She'd sit with them, talk with them, share more than just food. She'd share conversation, attention, dignity. And every single day, I watched my daughter smile. Real smiles. The kind that reached her eyes and made her look like the Emma I remembered from before Sarah died. The pieces started clicking together in my brain, even though I didn't want them to. Emma wasn't just skipping meals. She was systematically giving away every bit of food I gave her. The breakfast she claimed to eat but left half-finished, probably in her backpack. The lunch I packed, given away. The dinner she picked at, hidden in napkins and disposed of later. She was starving herself to feed other people. But why? That was the question that kept me up at night, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand the logic of my 10-year-old daughter's mind. What was she thinking? What was driving this? And how long had it been going on? I needed to talk to her, but I also needed to do it right. I couldn't just burst in with accusations. I couldn't make her feel attacked or ashamed. I needed her to trust me enough to tell me the truth. So that night after dinner, where she'd once again pushed food around her plate without eating it, I asked her to sit with me on the couch. Her small body curled up next to mine, so thin I could feel her bones through her clothes, and I took a deep breath. "Emma, sweetheart, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me, okay?" She nodded, her eyes wary. "Where do you really go after school? There's no art club, is there?" Her face crumpled. Tears started streaming down her cheeks, and her whole body began to shake. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry." Hey, it's okay." I pulled her close, feeling her tiny frame trembling against me. I'm not mad, I just need to understand. Where do you go? Between sobs, the story came out. She'd started going to the park about 3 months ago. She'd seen the homeless people there, and they reminded her of the people at Mom's shelter. She'd given one man her lunch one day, and he'd been so grateful. And for just a moment she'd felt, not happy exactly, but less sad, connected to something. The food tastes sad when I eat it, Daddy, she cried. But when I give it to someone else, when I see them smile, when they say thank you, that doesn't taste sad, that tastes like Mom. My throat closed up. I could barely breathe around the lump forming there. What do you mean, baby? She pulled back to look at me, her face streaked with tears, her voice desperate for me to understand. Mom always said food is love. Remember, she'd say it when we cooked together. Food is how we show people we care, Emma. Food is love. And Mom always fed people who had nothing. She said it was important to share what we have with people who need it. Oh, Emma. So if I eat the food, I'm just one person being full. That's all. Just me, feeling full for a little while and then hungry again, and what does that matter? But if I give it to someone who's really hungry, someone who doesn't know where their next meal is coming from, then Mom's love keeps going. It doesn't stop just because she's gone. I stared at my daughter, this incredible, heartbreaking, beautiful child, and I understood. Finally, I understood. Food tastes sad because eating it for myself feels selfish, she continued, the words tumbling out now like she'd been holding them back for months. Mom's not here to cook it. She's not here to share it. She's not here to tell me I did a good job or to teach me a new recipe. When I eat, all I can think about is that she's gone. But when I feed someone else, someone who needs it, someone Mom would have fed, it's like she's still here. It's like I'm still with her, doing what she would have done. And for a little while, it doesn't hurt as much. I pulled her back into my arms and we both cried. I cried for my daughter's beautiful, broken logic. I cried for her grief that had twisted into something self-destructive, even as she thought she was doing something good. I cried for Sarah, who would have known exactly what to say, exactly how to help, and wasn't here to do it. Emma, I finally managed, my voice thick with emotion. What you're doing, the part about wanting to help people, about honoring Mom's memory by feeding others. That's beautiful, sweetheart. That's so much like your mom, and she would be so proud of that impulse in you. She pulled back to look at me hopefully. Really? Really? But baby, the part about not eating yourself. That's not what Mom would want. She wouldn't want you to hurt yourself to help others. She'd want you healthy and strong and happy. She'd want you to eat and grow and live a full life. But how can I be happy when she's not here? Emma's voice broke. How can I just eat dinner and laugh and enjoy food when she's dead? It feels wrong, Daddy. It feels like betraying her. And there it was, the core of it all. Emma thought that healing was betrayal. That moving forward meant leaving Sarah behind, that any happiness without her mother was a form of forgetting. Sweetheart, living your life isn't betraying Mom, I said softly, wiping tears from her face. Mom loved you more than anything in the world. The thing she wanted most was for you to be happy and healthy and to grow up to be an amazing person. If she could see you now, she wouldn't be proud that you're starving yourself. She'd be heartbroken. But I'm helping people, like she did. You are, and that's wonderful, but Mom helped people because she was strong and healthy and had enough resources to share. She ate good food so she'd have the energy to cook for others. She took care of herself so she could take care of everyone else. Do you understand? You can't pour from an empty cup, Emma. You can't help anyone if you're too weak to stand. She was quiet for a long time, processing this. Then in a very small voice, I don't know if I can eat normally again, Daddy. I don't know if I remember how. That's okay, I assured her. We're going to figure this out together, but I need you to try. I need you to fight to get better because I can't lose you too, Emma. I already lost Mom. I can't lose you. She threw her arms around my neck and sobbed. I don't want to die, Daddy, I don't. I just don't know how to be okay with her being gone. I know, baby, I know, me neither, but we're going to learn together. We sat there for a long time, holding each other, both of us crying for Sarah, for ourselves, for the impossible situation we were in. And when Emma finally calmed down, when the tears slowed and she was just breathing against my shoulder, I made a proposal. What if we made a deal? I asked. What if you promised to eat, really eat enough to be healthy, and in return we find a way to honor Mom's memory together? We could volunteer at the shelter where she used to work. We could cook meals for people who need them. We could keep doing what Mom did, but we do it together, and we do it in a way that doesn't hurt you. Emma pulled back to look at me. You mean it? We could really volunteer? Absolutely. In fact, I think it's exactly what we should be doing. We should be carrying on Mom's legacy, her love for others, but we have to be strong enough to do it. Which means you have to eat. She thought about this, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. What about breakfast and dinner? What about them? If I eat breakfast and dinner with you every day, all of it. Can I still share my lunch sometimes? Not give it all away, she added quickly. But maybe split it with someone who needs it. Half for me, half for them. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't exactly what the doctors would recommend. But it was a compromise I could live with if it meant Emma would start eating again. Deal, I said, holding out my hand to shake. But you have to really eat breakfast and dinner. No pushing food around your plate. No hiding it in napkins. Real eating. She shook my hand solemnly. Deal. That night was the first night in months that I actually slept more than a few hours. I still woke up multiple times to check on Emma, but the tight band of anxiety that had been crushing my chest for so long had loosened just a little. We had a plan. We had hope. The next morning I made breakfast and Emma ate it, all of it. She cried while eating, tears running down her face as she chewed, but she finished every bite. I cried too, but I didn't let her see. That afternoon, we had an emergency session with Dr. Chen. I explained everything, the lying, the homeless people, Emma's logic about food and grief and honoring Sarah. Dr. Chen listened carefully, taking notes, nodding. Emma, she said when I finished, what you've been doing is what we call purpose-driven grief processing. You found a way to feel connected to your mom by helping others. That's actually quite sophisticated emotional reasoning for someone your age. Emma looked up, surprised. It is. Very much so. But your father is right that hurting yourself in the process isn't what your mom would want. What we need to do is find a way for you to continue this meaningful work, this connection to your mom, while also taking care of yourself. Does that make sense? Emma nodded slowly. I think volunteering together is an excellent idea, Dr. Chen continued. It gives you both a constructive outlet for your grief, a way to honor Sarah's memory, and a shared activity that can help you process your loss together. But Emma, I need you to commit to eating properly. Your body is still growing. You need nutrition not just to survive, but to thrive, to become the person your mom would be proud of. I'll try, Emma said quietly. More than try, Dr. Chen said gently but firmly. I need you to do it. For yourself, for your dad, and yes, for your mom's memory. The best way to honor someone you love is to live the life they wanted for you. That phrase stuck with me. Live the life they wanted for you. It was so simple but so profound. Sarah wouldn't want us frozen in grief. She'd want us moving forward, living fully, spreading the love and kindness she'd embodied. That weekend, Emma and I went to Hope House, the homeless shelter where Sarah had volunteered for years. Walking through those doors without her felt surreal. I'd picked Sarah up here dozens of times, had helped carry in food donations, had dropped off supplies. But I'd never actually volunteered myself. That had been Sarah's thing, hers and Emma's. The director, a woman named Patricia, met us at the entrance. When she saw Emma, her eyes filled with tears. Oh, honey, she said, pulling Emma into a hug. We've missed you so much. Your mama would be so happy to see you here. Can we help? Emma asked, her voice small but determined. Can we cook like Mom and I used to? We would be honored, Patricia said. Come on, let me show you where everything is. The kitchen was just as I remembered from the few times I'd seen it. Industrial, efficient, but warm somehow. Patricia explained that they served dinner to about 150 people every night, and meals were always simple but filling. Spaghetti, chili, stew, casseroles. What were you thinking of making? Patricia asked. Emma didn't hesitate. Mom's lasagna, the big batch recipe. The one that feeds 100 people. Patricia smiled. That was always everyone's favorite. You remember how to make it? Every step, Emma said, and she did. For the next 3 hours, Emma and I worked side by side in that kitchen, and I watched my daughter come alive in a way I hadn't seen in months. She measured ingredients, stirred sauce, layered noodles, and cheese with the confidence of someone who'd done it 100 times before. Because she had, with Sarah. As we cooked, Emma told me stories I'd never heard. About the time she and Sarah had come here, about the people they'd fed, about the conversations they'd had while cooking. She talked about her mom like Sarah was still there, still present, still teaching her. When the lasagna came out of the ovens, the smell filled the entire building. People started lining up for dinner, and Emma insisted on being part of the serving line. She stood next to me, a huge ladle in her small hands, putting lasagna on plates and smiling at everyone who came through. And then an elderly man reached the front of the line. He looked at Emma and his weathered face broke into a smile of recognition. "Little Emma," he said, "is that you?" Emma's face lit up. "Mr. Marcus, you're still here. Every Tuesday and Thursday, just like always," he said. "Your mama used to save me extra garlic bread, said I was too skinny." He looked at me. "You must be Emma's dad. Sarah talked about you all the time. I'm so sorry for your loss. She was an angel walking among us." "Thank you," I managed, my throat tight. Marcus looked back at Emma. "You helping out like your mama used to? She'd be so proud of you, little girl." "I'm trying," Emma said softly. "I miss her a lot." "We all do," Marcus said. "But she's not really gone, you know. Not as long as we keep doing what she taught us, keep spreading love like she did. That's how we keep her alive." Emma went very still. "That's what I've been trying to do, keep her alive by feeding people." Marcus studied her with kind, knowing eyes. "That's good, honey, real good, but you make sure you're feeding yourself too, yeah. Can't help nobody if you're running on empty. Your mama knew that. She always took care of herself so she could take care of others." After serving dinner, we sat with Marcus and a few other regulars, listening to their stories about Sarah. They talked about her laugh, her kindness, the way she'd remember everyone's name and little details about their lives. They talked about how she'd treated them with dignity, like they were friends rather than charity cases. "Your wife understood something most people don't," Marcus told me at one point. "She understood that everyone's got a story, and everyone deserves to be seen as a whole person, not just their circumstances. She made us feel human again." "How did you end up here?" Emma asked him. It was the kind of direct question only a child could ask without it seeming rude. Marcus didn't seem offended. "I was a veteran, came back from Iraq with PTSD, lost my wife to cancer while I was overseas, couldn't deal with it when I got back. Started drinking, lost my job, lost my apartment, been on the streets on and off for 6 years now." "I lost my mom too," Emma said quietly. "A drunk driver hit our car, she died." Marcus reached over and patted her hand. "I'm real sorry, little one." Losing someone you love like that, it breaks something inside you that never quite heals right. "How do you keep going?" Emma asked. "How do you not give up?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "For a long time, I didn't keep going. I just existed. Survival mode, you know. Wake up, find food, find somewhere to sleep, repeat. I thought about giving up a lot. But then I'd think about my Lily. That was my wife, and I knew she'd be so mad at me for wasting the life she didn't get to finish living." He leaned forward, looking Emma in the eyes. "Your mama would feel the same way about you, honey. She'd be so angry if she knew you were hurting yourself because of her. The best way to honor someone you love isn't to suffer for them. It's to live, really live. Be happy, do good things, make the world better like they did. That's the tribute they'd want." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "But it feels wrong to be happy without her." "I know it does," Marcus said gently. "Lord, do I know. For the first year after Lily died, I felt guilty every time I smiled, felt like I was betraying her memory. But you know what I realized? Lily would be so furious if she knew I gave up on life. She'd kick my butt from the afterlife. She'd want me living fully, loving fully, being the man she fell in love with, not this broken-down version grieving himself into nothing." "But you're still here," Emma pointed out. "At the shelter, you're not. You haven't gotten better." Marcus smiled sadly. "Getting better's not a straight line, kid. Some days are good, some days are hard, but I'm still here, still trying, and that counts for something. And having people like your mama and now you and your dad treating me like I matter, that helps more than you know." On the drive home, Emma was quiet. When we got to the house, she went straight to the fridge and pulled out the leftovers from dinner. "I'm hungry," she said, and my heart nearly burst. I watched her eat a full plate of food. Real eating, not the mechanical chewing and swallowing she'd been doing before. She even went back for seconds. "Mr. Marcus was right," she said between bites. "Mom wouldn't want me starving myself. She'd be so mad at me. She'd understand why you did it," I said. "But yeah, she'd definitely be mad that you were hurting yourself." "Dad," Emma looked up at me. "Can we go back to the shelter next week?" "We can go every week if you want." And we did. Every Saturday, Emma and I would spend the day at Hope House. We'd cook in the morning, serve in the evening, and in between, we'd talk to people. Emma became especially close with Marcus, who turned into an unexpected mentor for her. Marcus had this way of talking about difficult things without making them seem overwhelming. He'd share his own experiences with grief and loss, and Emma would listen, absorbing his words like a sponge. He taught her that healing wasn't linear, that it was okay to have bad days, that grief never fully goes away, but it does change shape over time. You learn to carry it differently, he told her once. At first, it's this huge boulder on your back crushing you. But over time, it becomes more like a stone in your pocket. Still there, still heavy, but manageable. You can walk around with it, live your life, and just touch it sometimes to remember. Emma started eating regularly. Not without struggle, there were still days when her grief overwhelmed her and food felt impossible. But those days became less frequent. She gained weight slowly but steadily. Her energy returned. Her hair stopped falling out. The shadows under her eyes faded. And more importantly, she started laughing again, really laughing. The kind of deep belly laughs that I remembered from before. The first time it happened, we were at the shelter, and one of the volunteers had told a terrible dad joke. Emma burst out laughing and then stopped abruptly, looking guilty. "It's okay to laugh," I told her softly. "Mom would want you to laugh." "I know," Emma said. "It just feels so weird, like I'm leaving her behind." "You're not leaving her behind," I assured her. "You're taking her with you. Every time you laugh, every time you help someone, every time you cook her recipes or tell a story about her, you're keeping her alive, just in a different way." About 6 months into our volunteering, something incredible happened. Emma's school was doing a project on community service, and Emma proposed starting a program to feed homeless people. She called it Feed Forward, the idea being that you feed someone today who will feed someone else tomorrow, a continuous chain of kindness. She presented the idea to her class, and her teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, loved it. Before we knew it, the entire grade was involved. Students would make extra lunches at home, and every Friday, a group would distribute them to homeless people around the city. The program grew quickly. Parents got involved, local businesses donated food, and within a few months, Feed Forward was feeding over 50 people every week. Emma was thriving, not just physically, but emotionally. She was engaged with school again, making friends, participating in activities. She still had hard days, still cried for her mom, still struggled with the unfairness of losing her so young. But she'd found a way to channel her grief into something positive, something that honored Sarah's memory while also allowing Emma to live her own life. The shelter became our second home. Patricia started calling us the dynamic duo. Marcus continued to be a steady presence in Emma's life, offering wisdom and perspective that I couldn't provide. He understood loss in a way I was still learning to. Then, about a year after we started volunteering, Marcus had news. He'd gotten into a transitional housing program. After 6 years on and off the streets, he was getting an apartment, getting help with his PTSD, getting back on his feet. Emma cried when he told us. "I'm going to miss seeing you here every week." "Hey now," Marcus said, pulling her into a hug. "Just because I'm getting a place doesn't mean I'm abandoning you. I'll still be here volunteering. Your mama's place was special to me. And besides, I gotta make sure you're still eating right." Emma laughed through her tears. "I promise I am." "I know," Marcus said. "I can see it. You're not that sad, hollow little girl who first came back here last year. You're growing up strong and healthy, just like your mama would want." "You're growing stronger too," Emma pointed out. "We're healing together," Marcus agreed. "That's what your mama did for people. She helped them heal, and now you're doing the same thing." On what would have been Sarah's 38th birthday, Emma had an idea. She wanted to make Sarah's famous lasagna, but not just for the shelter. She wanted to invite people to our house. Marcus, Patricia, some of the other regulars from Hope House, family members, friends. A celebration of Sarah's life, centered around food and community, the two things Sarah loved most. I wasn't sure I was ready for that. Having all those people in our house, the house where Sarah and I had built our life together, the kitchen where she and Emma had cooked countless meals. It felt like it might be too much, but Emma was insistent. "Mom would have wanted a party, Dad. She always said birthdays should be celebrated with the people you love and good food. That's exactly what we're going to do." So we did. We spent the entire day cooking. Emma directed the whole operation like a tiny chef, and I followed her lead. We made lasagna, garlic bread, salad, and Sarah's famous chocolate cake. The house filled with the smells of home, of Sarah, of love. When people started arriving, our small house filled with warmth and laughter and stories. Marcus came in a new shirt, looking proud and more put together than I'd ever seen him. Patricia brought flowers. Family members brought side dishes. Friends brought memories. We gathered around our dining room table, the table where Sarah and I had eaten thousands of meals together, where Emma had done her homework, where we'd celebrated holidays and birthdays and ordinary Tuesdays. And we filled it with food and people and love. Before we ate, Emma stood up. "I want to say something." The room went quiet. My small daughter, not quite 11 yet but somehow seeming so much older, looked around at all the faces watching her. "A year ago I couldn't eat," she said simply. "Everything tasted sad because my mom died, and I thought eating without her was wrong. I thought the only way to honor her was to feed other people and starve myself. I was really, really wrong." She looked at me, then at Marcus, then at Patricia. "But thanks to my dad and Marcus and everyone at Hope House, I figured something out. The way to honor someone you love isn't to suffer for them, it's to live. To really live the way they would want you to." Mom loved food. She loved bringing people together with food. She loved feeding people and making them happy. Emma picked up her glass of sparkling cider. "So today, on her birthday, we're going to eat. We're going to enjoy every bite. We're going to laugh and tell stories and celebrate her life." Because that's what she would want, not sadness, not suffering, joy, love, community, all the things she believed in. Everyone raised their glasses. "To Sarah," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "To Sarah," everyone echoed, and then we ate. Emma took a full plate, piled high with lasagna and bread and salad, and she ate it all. She didn't cry. She didn't look guilty. She just enjoyed the food, the company, the moment. And watching her, I felt something I hadn't felt since Sarah died. Hope. Not hope that everything would magically be okay. Not hope that the grief would disappear, but hope that we could actually do this. That we could survive Sarah's loss and build a new life that honored her memory while still allowing us to be happy, to live, to thrive. After dinner, as people were leaving, Marcus pulled me aside. "Your girl's going to be okay," he said. "More than okay, she's going to do great things." "She already is," I said, watching Emma hug Patricia goodbye. "Just like her mama," Marcus said. "Sarah would be so proud." "Yeah," I agreed, my throat tight. "She would." That night, after everyone had left and the kitchen was clean and Emma was in bed, I sat in the living room and allowed myself to really feel everything. The grief, yes, that was still there, still heavy, still painful. But also gratitude. Gratitude that Emma was healthy, gratitude for the people who had helped us, gratitude that we'd found a way forward. I thought about Sarah, about the woman who had loved so fiercely, who had taught our daughter to see people's humanity, who had believed in the power of food to bring people together and heal wounds. She wasn't here, but her legacy was. In Emma's smile, in the people we fed every week, in the program Emma had started at school, in every moment we chose love over despair. The next few years passed quickly. Emma continued to grow and heal. She stayed involved with Feed Forward, which expanded beyond our school district to several others. By the time she was 13, the program was feeding over 200 people a week, run entirely by student volunteers. Marcus got a job, an apartment, and slowly rebuilt his life. He still volunteered at Hope House every week, and he and Emma maintained their close friendship. He became like an uncle to her, someone she could talk to about the hard stuff, about grief and loss and how to keep going when life feels impossible. I made changes too. After 2 years of volunteering, after watching the impact that service had on Emma and on me, I made a drastic decision. I quit my corporate job and went back to school to become a grief counselor, specializing in childhood loss. If our experience could help other families going through similar pain, I wanted to be able to offer that support. It was terrifying leaving the security of a steady paycheck, but it felt right. It felt like something Sarah would have encouraged me to do. She always said life was too short to spend it doing work that didn't matter, work that didn't make a difference. Emma's application to college came with a full scholarship based on her community service work. She wrote her personal statement about turning grief into purpose, about learning that the best way to honor someone you love is to live fully and help others. Her essay made me cry. At 17, Emma was remarkable. Not because she was perfect. She still had bad days, still struggled with missing her mom, still carried that grief like Marcus had said, like a stone in her pocket. But she was strong, healthy, confident, and kind. She'd inherited Sarah's ability to see people, really see them, and her dedication to making the world better. The summer before college, Emma launched a nonprofit called Sarah's Table. It was an expansion of Feed Forward, but bigger, more organized. The nonprofit coordinated volunteers to prepare and distribute meals to homeless people, but also worked to connect them with resources, housing assistance, job training, mental health services, addiction treatment. Food is important, Emma explained when presenting the idea to potential donors. But it's not enough. We need to address the whole person, all their needs. That's what Mom would have done. Fed them first, yes, but then helped them get back on their feet. Sarah's table grew faster than any of us expected. Within a year, they were feeding over 200 people every week and had helped place 15 people in stable housing. Marcus became the full-time manager, finally combining his lived experience with meaningful work. I finished my training and opened a small practice specializing in grief counseling for children and families. My first client was a 12-year-old girl whose father had died in a construction accident. She reminded me so much of Emma, the same hollow look in her eyes, the same desperate searching for a way to make sense of the senseless. "I don't know how to be happy anymore," she told me in our first session. "That's normal," I assured her. "Grief makes everything feel impossible, but I promise you there's a way through it, not around it, not over it, but through it." "How do you know?" "Because my daughter and I walked that path," I said. "And we're still walking it, honestly. Grief doesn't end. But it changes, and you learn to carry it differently." 5 years after Sarah died, Emma and I stood together at Sarah's grave on the anniversary of her death. We'd made it a tradition to come here once a year, not to be sad, but to tell Sarah about everything happening in our lives. To share our victories and struggles, to thank her for the lessons she'd taught us, to promise to keep living the way she'd want us to. "I got accepted to the social work program at State University," Emma told the gravestone. "Full scholarship. I'm going to do what you did, Mom, help people, see them, make them feel valued and loved." I added my own update. "My practice is growing. I helped 3 families this year work through losing a parent. It's hard work, but it matters. I think you'd be proud." Emma turned to me. "Do you think she knows about everything we're doing?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I'd like to think so. I'd like to think she can see that we're okay, that we survived, that we turned our grief into something meaningful." "We didn't just survive," Emma corrected. "We're thriving. We're living the life she wanted for us." Standing there in the cemetery with the afternoon sun warm on our faces and flowers we'd brought brightening Sarah's grave, I realized Emma was right. We had survived. But more than that, we'd found a way to live with loss, to grow through grief, to transform pain into purpose. Sarah's death could have destroyed us. For a while, it nearly did. But Emma, in her childlike wisdom, had shown me a path forward. She taught me that love doesn't end when someone dies. It just changes form. It becomes the meals we share, the people we help, the kindness we spread, the lives we touch. Every meal Emma and I cooked together, every person we fed at the shelter, every family I counseled through their grief, every student who volunteered with Sarah's table. That was Sarah, still here, still making a difference, still changing the world through us. We'd taken the most painful experience of our lives and transformed it into something beautiful. Not because we're exceptionally strong or because we had it all figured out. We stumbled, we struggled, we made mistakes, but we kept going, we kept trying, we kept loving. And in the end, that's what grief work is. It's not about getting over the loss or moving on from it. It's about learning to carry love and loss together, about integrating grief into your life rather than letting it consume you, about finding ways to honor the dead by living fully. 6 months later, I attended Emma's college graduation. She walked across that stage to receive her bachelor's degree in social work, and when she accepted her diploma, she raised it toward the sky. "For Mom," she mouthed. "Sarah would have been so proud. Hell, I was proud enough for both of us." After the ceremony, we went to Hope House to celebrate. It seemed fitting that Emma's educational achievement, her entry into the career she'd chosen because of Sarah, should be celebrated at the place where she'd learned to heal. Marcus met us there with a cake. "To the next generation of world changers," he said, hugging Emma tight. "Your mama's legacy continues through you, kid. Never forget that." Patricia added her own toast. "Sarah taught us all that food is love, that every person has dignity, and that small acts of kindness can change the world. Emma, you've taken those lessons and magnified them. Sarah's table has fed thousands of people, housed dozens, changed countless lives. Your mother would be beyond proud." As we shared cake and stories, surrounded by the people whose lives we'd touched and who'd touched ours, I felt Sarah's presence so strongly. Not as a ghost or a memory, but as a living force. She was in Emma's laugh, in Marcus's smile, in the volunteers serving food, in every person who'd been fed and seen and valued. Love doesn't die. It transforms, it spreads, it multiplies. Sarah had taught us that through her life, and we'd learned to embody it after her death. That night, driving home with Emma beside me, both of us tired but content, I thought about that terrible day 6 years ago when I'd followed Emma to the park and discovered she was feeding her lunches to homeless people. How terrified I'd been, how helpless I'd felt. How close we'd come to losing everything. But we didn't lose everything. We found something. Not a replacement for Sarah, nothing could ever replace her, but a way forward, a purpose. A path through grief that led not to forgetting or moving on, but to honoring and continuing. Emma's phone buzzed. It was a message from one of the Sarah's table volunteers. They just placed another person in permanent housing. A man who'd been on the streets for 3 years was getting keys to an apartment tomorrow. "Mom would love this," Emma said softly, reading the message. "She does love it," I replied. "Wherever she is, whatever comes after this life, I have to believe she sees what you're doing and she's so proud." Emma leaned her head on my shoulder. "We did okay, didn't we, Dad, after everything?" "We did more than okay, sweetheart. We turned the worst thing that ever happened to us into something that helps other people. We kept Mom's love alive by spreading it to everyone we meet. That's not just okay, that's extraordinary." And it was. Not every day was easy. We still had moments of overwhelming grief, times when the absence of Sarah felt like a physical wound that would never heal. We still cried on her birthday, on the anniversary of her death, on random Tuesdays when something would trigger a memory. But we'd learned that grief and joy could coexist, that you could miss someone desperately while still living a full, meaningful life. That honoring the dead meant living fully, not freezing in perpetual mourning. Sarah had taught Emma that food is love. And Emma had taught me that love survives death, transforms through grief, and becomes something even more powerful when shared with others. Every meal we prepared together, every person we fed, every life we touched, that was Sarah's legacy. That was our grief transformed into grace. That was love refusing to die, instead choosing to multiply and spread and light up the world. And in the end, isn't that what we all hope for? That our love will outlast us, that the good we do will ripple outward long after we're gone, that the people we touch will carry our lessons forward, keeping us alive not through mourning but through action. Sarah died 6 years ago, but she lives on in every meal Emma cooks, in every person Sarah's table feeds, in every homeless veteran Marcus helps find housing, in every grieving family I counsel, in every volunteer who shows up to spread kindness to strangers. She lives on in me, in the father I've become, in my ability to face grief and help others face theirs. She lives on in Emma, in her compassion and strength and determination to make the world better. The drunk driver who killed Sarah took her life. But he couldn't take her legacy. He couldn't stop her love from spreading. He couldn't prevent her daughter from becoming exactly the kind of person Sarah had hoped she'd be: kind, strong, committed to helping others, capable of transforming pain into purpose. That's our victory. Not that we got over Sarah's death, we never will, but that we learned to carry it forward, to let it shape us without breaking us, to transform our grief into something that helps others. So when people ask me how we survived, how Emma recovered from nearly starving herself, how we built a life after losing the woman who was our center, I tell them the truth. We didn't survive by forgetting or moving on. We survived by remembering, by honoring. By taking everything Sarah taught us about love and kindness and service, and spreading it as widely as we could. We survived by understanding that food is love, and love is eternal, and the best way to keep someone's memory alive is not through tears, but through action. We survived by turning sadness into service, grief into grace, and loss into legacy. And somehow, impossibly, we didn't just survive, we thrived. Thanks for walking through this journey with me today. Emma and I still volunteer every Saturday, still cook together, still share Sarah's love with everyone we meet. And maybe that's the most important lesson of all, that love never dies, it just changes form. If this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe, because your support keeps these stories reaching people who need them. And hey, drop a comment telling me how you honor the people you've lost. Sometimes sharing our stories is how we heal together. Until next time, keep spreading love, keep helping others, and remember, the best way to honor those we've lost is to live fully, love deeply, and make the world a little brighter because we're in it.